how to stop worrying what others think of you as a woman in midlife. Now, it seems like a really silly thing to say, doesn't it? We say this for years and years and years. As a child, we worry about what people say to us. We tell our kids not to worry about what people say to us. But actually, I think it is something that really bothers us. And certainly for me personally, it was something that I was so worried about what people would think about me that it stopped me from doing things. So I'm going to just go through a few bits and pieces with us. As a woman, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. As a woman, we are programmed from a very early age to seek approval as a way to avoid conflict. We do it all the time. You know, through the ages, it's also been expected that women would be the carers. And so fitting in is kind of part of our social survival, if you like. So believe it or not, a lot of this wanting to belong, a lot of this kind of like worried about what people think comes from our ancestral DNA. I'm going to just go through this with you because it blows my mind every time I think about it. So back in the early days, you know, think caveman time, the men would go out and hunt for this week's dinner, whilst the women would stay in or around the cave. And the men quite often wouldn't bother wasting time trying to make friends with the next man, you know, because they're often just on a mission. It was like, I've got to go and find that, whatever it is we're killing today, mammoth, whatever it's going to be. Whilst the women, they would have to try and get along with the other women because for them, there was no escape. They had to share a space around the cave with these other women. So the women would stay close to the cave and they'd be responsible for growing or gathering vegetables or herbs or whatever it was they had at that time, if anything, and also looking after the kids. They also had the job of protecting the cave whilst the men were away. Now, this isn't some sexist view that I've come up with that this is the way that it used to be. This is scientifically proven, and that this is how we were years and years ago. So if you look at our physical strengths and weaknesses, much of it actually stems from this time. We haven't changed that much. So women have better peripheral vision than men. Men have better tunnel vision than women because we had to keep an eye on everything, whereas the men just had to go and hunt the mammoth. Also, and this one absolutely blows my mind, I have to share this with you, men have the capacity to use 10,000 means of communication per day, whereas for a woman, it's 25,000 ways that we communicate per day. So if you've ever wondered why your partner doesn't talk to you when he's home, he's probably used up 9,999 of them and he just doesn't have any more in him. Whereas you quite possibly have still got a good 10,000 left in you. So don't worry about it. That's just life. But it's also why women have better intuition than men. So if you've ever found yourself thinking you don't trust somebody, you don't like the look of them, it's probably because your intuition's kicked in. Because remember, this stems back from the times you had to protect the cave and the kids. If you didn't trust somebody, you wouldn't let them near you. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all the sciencey stuff, but if you were as interested as I am, there is a fantastic book by Alan and Barbara Pease, and it's called Why Men Don't Listen and Women Can't Read Maps. And it's got so many insights into it, which talk about all of this and like why women found the need to get on with other people, etc., etc. And for me, it blew my mind. I read it and it really helped me with my son. It helped me understand my son because boys. Anyway, let's get back to societal expectations. I just had to throw that one in. So society has long conditioned us women to value selflessness and prioritizing others. So we're always told to put someone else before ourselves, that someone else's needs are more important than our own. And this conditioning leads to a belief that being a good girl or a good woman means being selfless. It means putting everyone else first. It's avoiding behaviors that might be perceived as selfish. And we care about what people think because we've been taught that approval and acceptance come from being that good girl, from giving, from nurturing and sacrificing our own needs for the sake of others. So so many women end up becoming people pleasers. They fear rejection or judgment if they dare to prioritize themselves. And society often equates selflessness with worth. So many women internalize this message that they need to sacrifice their own needs and their own desires to gain approval and love from others. So basically, we're being told for years and years and years that we need other people to like us. We need to do things for other people. So therefore, we need to think about other people. So, like people pleasers, this desire to avoid appearing selfish drives people to say yes, even when they want to say no. I mean, how many of us have issues with our boundaries because we don't say no? We feel bad saying no, even when it's something we don't want to do. So we worry that setting those boundaries or prioritizing themselves are going to lead others to view us as cold or uncaring. And so we seek validation from this ability to constantly give and constantly nurture. Does it sound familiar? This is me, 100%. So another reason, which again is tied to our ancestral DNA, is this fear of rejection and this need to belong. So as women, maintaining strong social connections was crucial for survival. So back then, back in the caveman days, again, I'm going back, being part of the group meant safety. It meant resource and it meant support. Now, if you didn't get along with this group, then the chances were that you were going to be thrown out of the cave. You're going to be ostracized. And in those days, if you were ostracized and thrown out of the cave, it would most certainly equate to your death, probably by a saber-toothed tiger or something. So we have this strong need to conform, to be accepted, to not be rejected. So we have this fear of rejection. So today, whilst the stakes aren't as high, there's not that many saber-toothed tigers rolling around, the fear of rejection is still in us, and it still causes us to be overly concerned about what other people are thinking. So at our core, we all crave this acceptance and belonging. And the thought of being excluded or rejected can be incredibly painful. And for women especially, that fear of not fitting in or being judged harshly drives them to care deeply about other people's opinions. We worry if we don't act in certain ways, we're going to be ostracized. We're going to be labeled as difficult or selfish. And they are the modern day saber-toothed tigers. So, fear of rejection is really a big thing for us. Next on my list is fear of failure. So, failure can feel deeply personal, especially for women who've been conditioned to seek perfection in every area of your lives, like just do a little bit of that, do a little bit of this. And we often tie our self-worth to how well we perform, whether it's at work, as a parent, in our relationships, whatever it is. And the fear of failure leads to an obsession with what others think. And we're afraid that if we fail publicly, we're going to be judged, or we're going to be criticized, or we're just going to be seen as less than. So we really worry about these things. And then the final one that I want to talk about, the thief of joy, comparison. I mean, comparison is a huge driver of self-doubt, especially in today's world where social media is giving us this constant stream of other people's perfect lives. Women are often brought up to be humble and not boast about their achievements, I mean, particularly if you're British. So we're much more likely to compare ourselves negatively to others. Instead of celebrating our strengths, we often focus on what we perceive we lack. And it's especially true in midlife. Comparison tends to hit us really hard at this stage in our lives. You might look at other women and feel like they're just more successful, they're in better shape, or they've got great careers, or they've got a great marriage, or whatever it is. And this comparison just leads to caring too much about others' opinions because it fuels the fear that you're not measuring up. And society reinforces this comparison by promoting unrealistic ideals for women, whether it's beauty standards or career achievements or family life. You don't see many adverts around on TV that have a woman sitting in a corner crying her eyes out because she's had a really shit day. Everyone's always really happy. It's a really happy family, a happy blended family, whatever it is. So we feel like we're constantly competing to meet these impossible standards. And so we are so sensitive to what others think of us. And all of those things, the kind of the DNA, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the comparisons, all of this is why we worry so much about other people's opinions. And it's why we're constantly trying to ensure that people don't think badly of us. So now we understand why we care about it, particularly in midlife. I want to talk about how us caring about it so much is affecting us in midlife. So for me, as I put in my post the other day, I was terrified of starting yet another career. You know, I mean, I left my corporate job at 35 and then set up my own salon. It was great. It was very successful. It paid me a lot of money. I had a great time. And when I was 47 and I sold my salon, I didn't want to tell people that I was going to start all over again. I was so scared of what they would say. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be that person. I was like, oh God, that she's desperate, or, oh, look at her now. This is just another fad. Look at what she's trying. All of these thoughts went through my head. So I didn't try something new. I stuck with what I already knew. And it didn't make me happy, and it cost me a heck of a lot of money. And in the end, I had to change, but I only changed because I hit rock bottom. So I don't want you guys to get there. I want you to understand this. So this is really common for women in midlife who want to make changes, but worry about being judged for their choices. Whether it is, it can make you feel really vulnerable. It's whether or not you want to start a new business, or you want to change your career, or you want to go for a promotion, or you're pursuing a passion, or you know what, you've had enough of your marriage, whatever it is. Many women in midlife hold back because they don't want to be seen as inconsistent or indecisive. And as a result, they just carry on doing what they've been doing, all the while knowing they want something else, out of a fear of what others might say or what others might think. It can be the same with relationships. So in midlife, the pressure to maintain a certain image in relationships, whether that be romantic, familial, or social, it can cause women to stay in situations that don't serve them. I personally have a really bad relationship with my stepson. I always have. He's never wanted to be part of my life. And he and his girlfriend now have really fallen out with us. And it's got to a stage where I'm not actually allowed to see my grandson, it broke my heart. But I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I was so embarrassed to talk about it. I was so worried that other people were going to judge me on it. And it was kind of all the time I'm thinking, I'm hurting so much inside, but I can't talk about it because what are people going to think? So we don't talk about things. Some women fear that leaving their long-term relationship will lead to judgment from their peers or their family, worrying about being labeled as the one who couldn't make it work or gave up too easily, or whatever it is that we think is going through our heads. It can prevent women from seeking happiness and fulfillment in their relationships. So we hold ourselves back. We hold ourselves back from trying new things. We hold ourselves back from going after our passions. And many women in midlife have a passion that they want to pursue. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to take up a hobby or start a new venture. Maybe you want to go get a camper van and travel around the world. But the fear of being criticized for stepping outside of that comfort zone, out of your usual role, will hold you back. And we think, well, what are people going to say if I suddenly decide to do that? If I suddenly decide to sell my house and move 100 miles away, what are people going to say? What are people going to say if I suddenly decide to go back to school now? So there's this pressure to conform to societal expectations and to what, to everything that's going on. And it just keeps us small, It keeps us from exploring new interests. It keeps us from showing our talents. It keeps us quiet. That's how we do it. And then the last one is how it shows up, is this like societal focus on youth and beauty. And often it makes women in midlife feel really self-conscious about their appearance. You know, we worry about being judged for aging. You know, should we be having Botox? Should we be having fillers? You know, every single time I turn a corner, I see another advert for this anti-aging collagen thing, this whatever. It's like, you know, I know that my face is not got as much elastic in it as it used to have. I get it. I get it. But you know what? I shouldn't be judged for it. And it's this whole thing of you feel like you're being judged. And when you feel like that, you then have all these fears. And you have a fear of showing up. You have a fear of standing up in front of people, of having your photograph taken. You want your photograph taken with a filter on it. I've just been looking through a Facebook page that I'm on, and there's so many women in their 50s who have these beautiful filters. Don't get me wrong, the filters are fantastic, but it's not us. And why can't we be us? Why can't we be? You know, I have got lines, I have got wrinkles, I have got jowls, I have got all of these things. My body is definitely not a Davina McCall body, but to be honest with you, I'd much rather have a glass of wine and actually go and enjoy myself than work out for 16 hours a day. It's not my thing, but I feel like I get judged for it. There's pressure to look young, you know, or age gracefully, which basically means I need to wear makeup all the time, or, you know, like how am I supposed to do it? It's just so intense. And for me, it just makes me feel like if I'm not doing that, people are going to judge me. And if people are going to judge me, then that means that I'm worried about what they think. It's the same thing. Finally, we also have this way of overextending ourselves. And when we overextend ourselves, often we end up feeling really resentful, or just plain knackered. You know, lots of women that I speak to feel like they have to keep up appearances, trying to please everyone. You know, they have to go to this event or that event. They have to go to their kids' thing. They have to do the husband's thing. They have to go to the gym. They have to go to work. They have to do these things. Have to go and see mum and dad. Have to go. It just results in this overcommitment to things we really don't want to do. You know, you say yes to all of these things. You get yourself involved in the community because remember, we're nice people. So we don't say no to people. And actually, you just end up resenting it. You're just so exhausted. And we're doing all of this feeling drained, feeling unfulfilled. And we're doing it because we are so worried about what someone else is going to think about us. So now we understand that. We understand the why. We understand the how. Now I'm going to share with you some techniques on how you can change. And I still care what people think of me. I'm not going to tell you that I've got a magic wand and that I can suddenly abracadabra and you're not going to give a monkeys about what anyone thinks about you. That's not true. But I care a lot less. And I genuinely feel like I've got a good grip now on most things and I can rationalize it in my head and I can do this. So I'm going to talk you through the things that I did, that I do, and that I know help people. So number one, the first thing that I want you to do is actually challenge that inner critic. You know the one I mean. If you've heard me talking, you'll know that mine's called Mavis. She's quite a naggy old bitch. And she's the one that tells me that I'm too fat, that I'm too stupid, that I'm not good enough, that nobody's going to like me, that I'm doing that wrong. She's that one. She's that voice. And she's the one that tells me that people are going to laugh at me, that people aren't going to like me, or people are going to say horrible things about me and all of that. And she tells me this quite regularly. I have conversations with her now to just, you know, we're getting to be quite good friends. She's actually you know, she's only trying to keep us safe. So we need to remember that your inner critic is trying to keep you safe. She doesn't want me to do anything differently. She wants me to do the same as I always do, because then she knows that I'll be safe. But the reality is sometimes I don't want to do that. And so her telling me that I'm going to get judged by it is just her trying to keep me safe. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually ask yourself, when you hear this voice, in your head, this inner critic, if you've not done this already, name her or him. You might have a male voice. Name it. Give it a name. Give it a persona, because then you can talk to it as if it's a separate person. This is not you. But when this inner voice starts, I want you to ask her, whose opinion is this? Because sometimes this fear that we have of what others think is more about our own self-judgment. Actually, it's not what others are going to think. It's us thinking that they're going to say that. And I say this to all my ladies, the one power that we do not have, that we all think we've got, is we cannot read minds. Okay? We cannot read someone else's mind. We might think we know what they're thinking, but we probably don't. So just ask yourself, whose opinion is it? And if it's your opinion, you start to question it. Why would somebody do that? So the second one that I want to do, and this is something that comes up a lot, is you need to learn to set boundaries, and you need to learn to practice saying no. Because one of the biggest challenges that we have in midlife is learning to say no without feeling guilty. So instantaneously, somebody comes up and they ask you to, I have a friend down the road and she does this all the time to me. And she phones me up and she'll say, Carrie, are you free on Tuesday? And I'm like, yeah, I'm free on Tuesday. Oh, you couldn't babysit for me, could you? And it's like, no, I don't know. I really don't want to babysit. And it's taken me years to be able to say, no, sorry, I don't. That's it. I don't give her an explanation. I don't say why. I just really don't. My kids are grown up. I'm done. I don't want to do babies, really. But it's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, because I used to say yes, and then I'd really resent it, because I'd finish work and then I'd go straight there and I'd babysit for 3 hours, and then I'd come home and I'd be exhausted and didn't want to do it. So you have to learn to say no. Saying no is an act of self-care. It's an act of self-respect. You know, I only said yes to her because I was worried about hurting her feelings. You're absolutely right, Kate. The more you say yes, the more they expect. And it's true. I was really worried about upsetting her. But she had no qualms of asking me to do something I didn't want to do. And I had no qualms of upsetting myself. And I was like, hold on a minute, I've got to say no. So it's a way of reclaiming you, your time, your energy for things that actually matter to you. Learn to set boundaries, practice saying no. And remember, no is a full sentence. If, like me, you're British, you don't want to be rude, you say, no, not really, that's okay, thank you. You know, we find it really hard to just say no. But I'm starting to get you saying, no, it's okay, I'm good. So learn to set your boundaries. The next one is to reframe failure as growth. Now, this one is so dear to my heart, and I absolutely hate the word failure, because I hear so many women who tell me they're too scared to do something in case they fail. And it's almost like it's this big kind of like, oh my God, I can't possibly do that, because what if I fail? What are people going to say about me? What are people going to do? I don't care. I don't care. If we had, think about it, all these people that do drug trials, the people that did drug trials for the HIV drug, which now means that people are not dying of it, how many times do you think they failed? They didn't just fail once and then get it right. They didn't fail at all and then get it right. You know, what about Thomas Edison? Famously failed thousands and thousands of times before he actually worked out how to contain electricity, how to make this light bulb work. It's so famous. And somebody said to him, you know, how does it feel when you keep failing? And he said, I haven't failed. I've just found thousands of ways in which it doesn't work. And that's exactly what we need to do. Instead of seeing it as seeing failure as something to fear, we need to start viewing it as a part of our learning, as a part of our growth, because it is an opportunity for us to grow, to do something different. It's an opportunity for us to get better. If you never fail at anything, oh my God, you are never going to get better. You know, you look at Michael Jordan and, you know, he's probably one of the most famous basketball players in the world. I can promise you that he has missed that net more times than he's ever hit it. But what he did is every time that he didn't get it, every time that he failed, he went back. He kept going, he kept going, he kept going, and he got better and he got better and he got better. And that is what we need to accept as failure. Failure is just a way for us to learn. So we need to let go of that being such a negative and start to embrace it. Okay, because if we are so worried that if we're going to fail at something, people are going to laugh. Why would people laugh if you're just trying something different? So we need to reframe failure. The next one is that we need to actually stay in our own lane. Okay, and I love this one. Stop comparing ourselves to other people and focus on our own journey. Okay. It's really easy to get lost, particularly scrolling on social media, going through and looking at what everyone else is doing, and you're thinking, oh my God, look, they've got a great life. They're doing this, they've been on holiday. Look at her new hair. We can do all of that, and it's really, really easy. One thing you need to remember is that nobody ever posts their shit days on social media. They don't do it. They post the days when they're looking amazing. They post the days when they're doing something good. You know, I get told all the time I need to post more on my stories. I don't post on my stories because, you know what, I don't actually do a lot. Like, you would get really bored if all you saw every day was me walking the dog and then sitting at my computer and working, which is pretty much what I do. My life isn't very interesting. It really isn't. I am a 53-year-old woman who is running a business. I've just finished running a different business. I freelance train somewhere else, and I have a dog and I have a house and I have a husband, and I'm knackered. So my life isn't very interesting at all. But the people that we're seeing on social media, the ones that we are actually comparing ourselves to, they're the ones that are having fun. They're not having a shit day. So we need to stay in our own lane. We need to stop focusing on everyone else and just focus on our own journey. Okay? Because if you don't, you're going to start worrying what they're saying about you. What would they say if you put your photos up? What would they say if you said, well, today this is what I'm doing? So you just stop doing it. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to surround yourself with supportive people. And this has been a life changer for me. So over the last few months, I have really gotten into networking, and it has changed my life because I am surrounded by people who are in exactly the same position that I am in. And it is incredible. It is uplifting. Yes, it's scary. Don't think for 1 second it's not. It is scary. And you'll see, like, in a few days' time when I go to a live, how scary it is for me. But actually, they don't make me feel judged. They don't make me feel inadequate. And I'm talking about a room full of really successful women. But actually, once you get to know them, you realize that they're just really supportive. They've been where I am. It is a joy you being in my world. Totally, Kate. I love it. But I just think, you know, we're all on a journey. I'm where I am on my journey. They're where they are on their journey. So seek out people who are not sitting at home making those comparisons. Seek out people who are actually on their own journey, because trust me, they're a lot less likely to care about external judgment. They're not going to be interested in judging you. They're just going to want to support you. So get that support network. If you're not sure where to go, talk to people in this group, because this is exactly what this group is for. Reach out to me. I can put you in contact with lots of people, and I'm always going to be a cheerleader for everybody. So please reach out. And then the next one, set your personal goals based on desires, not expectations. Now, I know Kate is going to agree with me on this one because we need to shift our focus from what we should be doing to what we could or what we want to be doing. Ask yourself what goals actually light you up, what dreams light you up. That's where you should be focused, on what you want out of life, not what someone else is telling you should be doing or someone else is telling you what you should want in life. What do you want? I know, Kate, it's frustrating, the shoulds of this world. If someone tells me you should be earning this amount of money by the time you're 50, you should be doing this, you should be married, you should be who cares? What do you want? That's the only thing that matters. What do you want? What could you do? That's it. So start creating and pursuing goals based on your personal desires. Because when you're doing something that you want to do, genuinely, you start to worry less about what other people think. And if they do think it, then I want you to start to reframe those negative thoughts. So teach yourself to just switch them over. Reframing is an incredible thing. It's so simple and it's so, so powerful. It really is. So if you think, I'm not going to do this because I'm really scared of what people are going to think, shift it to, I'm doing this for my own good. I'm doing this for my own growth. That kind of mindset shift will help you to actually just crack on. Align your actions with what you want to do in life, with your personal values, not someone else's personal values, but yours. Stop worrying about what they're saying. Reframe it and think, this is about me. Now, when you start doing this, you need to take small, brave actions. So what I want you to do is take those small, brave actions that get you out of your comfort zone. So if you're really worried about what people say, if you're at work, for example, and you're that person who sits in a meeting and you're thinking to yourself, really, I don't think that's right, or I've got something to say, and you never say it, then I want you to actually just have your opinion. Say something. You'll be amazed because you'll actually have a whole load of people who will look at you in amazement because they'll be thinking, why has she kept quiet for so long? One of my clients, Helen, she really struggled with this whole thing. She didn't want to say anything because she thought, I'm not, it's not my job. I can't do that. I can't do. She started speaking up, and all of a sudden, her boss was like, oh my God, you know so much about this. Why have you never talked about it? Why have you never done this? She ended up getting a promotion. This is literally what she was not speaking up because she thought she didn't know enough. Maybe you need to start adding some bold colors into your outfits. If you're not sure about style, lots of us, as we enter midlife, we wear really dark, pathetic, horrible colors. We don't do anything bright. We don't wear bright. We need to be wearing these bright colors. We need to be unapologetically out there. Leopard print, it's back in again. Bright colors. Go and get something that isn't black, that isn't brown, that isn't beige. Do something. Or try something new. But do it gradually. Don't have to go and blow up your entire world in one go. Just like do it bit by bit. And that gradual exposure just helps you to build confidence, and it decreases that fear of judgment. It really does. The more you do it, the less you worry what people say. And then finally, I want you to practice self-compassion. I want you to be kind to yourself, because you will. I can guarantee you will fall into old patterns of people pleasing or worrying what other people think. As I say, I still do now. I've been doing this work for 2 years. I've broken through a lot of my limiting beliefs, but I still have it every now and again. And changing these habits, changing these thoughts, understanding what's going on takes time. And we've had this bred into us, literally. I've been on this planet for nearly 54 years, and I was taught as a little girl to be a good girl be a good girl, be kind, share your toys, do this, do that, do the other. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be nice, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be kind, but actually we just need to be able to live our lives as well. So when you notice yourself slipping back into worry, just remind yourself it's okay. Each day is a new opportunity to just practice letting it go. Acknowledge it, try and reframe it, try and think about yourself, you know, think about your journey. Just, you'll get there, you really will. So hopefully by implementing some of these techniques, or all the techniques if you want, over time you will start to realize that it really does not matter what other people think. The only person's opinion that actually does matter is yours. You need to love yourself. You need to like yourself. And you need to live a life that makes you happy. Just remember, it takes all sorts to make this world go around. Don't have to fit a mold. So if you're struggling with any part of this and you would like some help, please book a breakthrough call with me where in 60 minutes we will go through and I will help you on your own personal journey with this. And trust me, once you crack this, the world really is your oyster, because I wouldn't have made my changes if I was still worried about what people thought of me. And it was the best thing I did. And as you can see, I am genuinely on here, wrinkles, jowls, and everything else. I don't care. I hope you've enjoyed today. I've really enjoyed today. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next week. Until then, you take care. Bye.